at least my evolving view of what we need to do to get ready to go to Mars. And I put my answers up here, as you can see. I think we need to focus on three things to prepare ourselves for a long-term, and I emphasize long-term, human exploration of Mars. I think we need to focus the Mars robotic program on sample return, number one. Number two, I think we need to sail into the deep water, so to speak, get out of the Earth-Moon system. And I think the first way to do that is to go to a near-Earth object asteroid. And I do think we need to establish a permanent research base on the Moon. And I emphasize permanent there. So this is the goal, to establish a base on Mars, not to go to Mars, but to stay on Mars. And that's a key point I'll come back to. A long-term research goal based on Mars. Check. Yeah? Okay, great. Here it is. Can I carry it in my pocket? Let me just quickly remind you why Mars. As we heard from the previous speakers, it's the question of life. Life in the past. Did Mars have life? Was it a second Genesis? Life in the present. Can Mars support life? Is it a place where humans can live and work? These are all questions, by the way. We don't know the answers to these questions. And future, can Mars have a biological future? These are the questions that drive Mars exploration, robotic and human. Why Mars? Why are we asking these questions of Mars? Very quickly, because evidence that Mars had water, the presence of an atmosphere with carbon and nitrogen in it, and good potential for preservation of evidence of past life in the cold, dry conditions of Mars. As we've heard before, there's water on Mars. Mariner 9 discovered water, and it's been rediscovered by every other mission since then. But there's ample evidence. You see the ice from Phoenix, MER images, and so on. There was water on Mars on the surface, and that's the fundamental reason why it's interesting. Our goal is to establish a research base, and as I've argued many, many times this morning, it's to establish a research base that operates for a long time. For me, a long time is 50 years. It used to be 4 years was a long time. As I get older, what's a long time gets bigger and bigger. Pretty soon it'll be 200 years from now. What do we need to do before we can establish a 50-plus research base on Mars? Again, this is those same 3 points. We need to integrate the Mars program with human exploration. Right now, NASA has 2 Mars programs. One in ESND and one in SND, using NASA jargon. Sample return is the key mission that connects the robotic and the human exploration. I'll come to that in a second. We need to fly beyond the Moon. Going to the Moon is relatively easy. You never really leave the gravitational system of the Earth-Moon system. You come back pretty easily. We need to learn how to fly beyond that. An Apollo 8-like mission to an NEO or a Phobos is the key thing. And I think we need to build a permanent base on the Moon. I'll go to each of these in turn. First, let me remind you, we have 2 Mars programs, and I think our key goal for the immediate future is to push for the unification of those 2 programs. This is what I call NASA's Mars Program 1, human exploration of the Moon and Mars. NASA's Mars Program 2 is the robotic exploration of Mars. And these 2 programs go to great pains to distance themselves from each other. You'd think that they were being operated by different, not just countries, different planets. And there's really no reason for that. And it's a good time to force a coherence now because the Mars science program is at a crossroads. Partly precipitated by the cost overruns and schedule overruns of MSL, but a variety of other things as well. I'm not going to go through into detail. The bottom line is that the rationale for Mars having a separate program has to change. For the last 10 years, it has been the search for life. Mars was a special target because it was the only place we could go to search for evidence of life. That is no longer the case. Now there's other targets, Enceladus, Europa, and Titan, that compete, and one would even say excel with respect to Mars in terms of the search for life. What's special about Mars now, and why Mars deserves to still have a special robotic program, is not the search for life. It's the fact that